A widow who's 76 years old is forced to live in an RV after handing over $70,000 of life savings to romance scammer who posed as Red Cross doctor working in Yemen and asked her to help buy their forever home. Dear God, this is depressing. Like, holy crap. So, an elderly widow has been forced to live in a camper in North Carolina after she lost her life savings to a romance gamer claiming to be a Red Cross doctor in Yemen. Jennifer Dennis, 76, met a man who said his name was Caleb on Facebook and quickly began an online relationship with him. Her husband, Richard Dennis, had died in 2020. He claimed to be a Red Cross doctor working in Yemen and claimed he would soon return to the U.S. After a few months went by, he proposed that the couple buy a house together in Cary, North Carolina, so they could start their lives together in a new place. Kayla told Dennis that he'd put up $600,000 himself and asked Dennis to pay the rest. She transferred the money and Caleb vanished. Dennis told ABC6 he was coming back to the States real soon and he was wanting to settle in a new area because he had lost his wife. Like, the things about these types of stories that like really bother me is that they basically go over or go after, I should say, elderly and people who are in a very vulnerable position, right? Because obviously this lady was like, I just lost my husband, I feel alone, like I'm kind of like lost, I don't know what's there to basically like live for anymore. And then she gets a message from this one guy. It's like, oh, maybe something could end up happening, gets these promises, and then basically gets backstabbed pretty quickly. But also, like, you should never transfer large sums of money to people that you've never met before. I mean, for the most part, you probably shouldn't be like transferring large sums of money to anyone. Period. Right? Like, like to me, like I can't even imagine just like transferring 70K to anyone, like at all. Like even when it comes to like family, right? Like for example, let's say that I had a family member that they're in like in a bad spot and they couldn't like really take care of themselves, right? I wouldn't be transferring them money, but I would probably set up something where like they're not going hungry, like their bills could be paid, all that kind of stuff, right? But I wouldn't just like drop like 70 G's into their account. Like that's just crazy. Like you don't do stuff like that. It's just completely irresponsible. Let's see. She didn't think twice before agreeing since the pain of losing her husband has surrounded her for years. Exactly, so basically she was in a really screwed up mental state. The pair decided that Caleb would pay $600,000 towards their new home, and she would pay the remaining $70,000 that was due. Dennis thought it seemed like the perfect deal, so she wired $70,000 and then an additional $8,700 for other expenses. So $78,700. After what she assumed was a done deal, Dennis and her son Raymond Schollenberger packed all their stuff up in Georgia and made way to their new house in Cray. But when the mother and son reached the address, they realized that there were people already living in the house and they had been scammed. Wow. So this person literally had them go to a physical address. Oh, that's horrible. Oh man, these messages are just sad. Dennis told the channel, how he did it, I don't know, but it all looked legitimate. I'm all out that money and I don't think I'll ever get it back. And at 76, I don't have a whole lot of future. Yeah, like this is the thing. This is the scary thing about like these types of scams and people falling for these scams. Like, for example, if you're 18, 20, maybe even your 30s, 40s, if you got scammed like this, yeah, it's brutal. Yeah, it's horrible. and it's going to be hard to deal with, but you still have the potential to still like retire very well. When you're 76 years old and you just transferred all of your money and it's going to be gone, you're basically screwed. Like, what can you even do at this point? You're going to be working at like Walmart at 76? Like, really? Or are you going to be basically just purely living off of Social Security and eating only ramen for the rest of your life, which may not even be that long? Like, like this is a super sad thing. That's why you gotta be super careful with like online scams. Like 70 G's gone. Well, technically nearly 80. When I noticed that someone was still living in the house and knocked on the door, I automatically knew that it was a scam. We didn't have any place to go. We ended up sleeping in our car. He sent me a picture of him. He had supposedly been beat up. That was the last time I heard from him. Someone from their church eventually lent them their camper to live in, while Dennis and her son figured out their situation. But she isn't the only victim of a romance scam. A 69-year-old California woman that she had met the men of her dreams. Blah blah blah. Yeah, so like it's a very like common thing about this, right? And again, like I think the biggest issue when I see some of these like scams and stuff is like a lot of the ladies that fall for these types of things is that they probably know that it's a scam from the very beginning, but their belief of wanting it to be true is so strong that they overlook it, right? There is probably like very obvious tells or tells, that something wasn't right, but they just probably wanted to believe it so strongly that they were willing to overlook it. I think it's kind of like I think the kind of like saying like a guy like a very attractive looking guy could say the exact same thing to a girl that a guy who looks extremely creepy says, and the attractive guy would basically almost be like applauded for it, probably get the girl's number, etc. But the creepy guy basically might get like an accusation against him, kind of thing. Like it's that type of thing where like maybe the photo of the guy, she was just so attracted to him, wanted to believe that he was true, all that sort of stuff. It was overlooking things when she really shouldn't have. Let's see. She never met someone. She chatted on the internet with a person and sent them money in exchange for attention, despite years of warnings giving out constantly not to do such a thing. Sadly, these guys have been known to find women like her. The thing is, I don't even think they gotta necessarily try too hard, like these scammers and whatnot, because it's literally all like a numbers game, right? If they could reach 2,000 ladies a day in terms of like reach out, like cold calls, right? You're bound to get someone to be willing to engage into a conversation, and then the longer you put into the conversation, the more rapport you get, and the higher likelihood that you are going to get that person to do what you want to do. For example, is like the same thing. Let's say that you wanted to have like a date or something, or like a girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever. If you ask like 2,000 people to go out with you, there's going to be a certain percentage of people that say like, okay, I'll go out with you, right? It's just like it's a literal numbers game. The only thing is, the more attractive you are, the better you are at speaking. That number will go up. Like that percentage will go up. Instead of being like 0.1%, maybe it goes to like 1% to like 2% to like 5% to who knows, like 10%, right? Depending on your attractiveness, your skills, etc., your job, your income, whatever. But these people, the best thing that they have basically going for them in the scam is the imagination of basically their victims, because they basically are believing this whole storyline when that person might have just like not even said anything. So I think there was like a scam like not too long ago where a girl believed that she was potentially getting married to like Leonardo DiCaprio, and like the words, the like sentences and whatever, like basically almost every single word that the scammer was like sending was like misspelled. It was horrible grammar. They were basically talking or like using words that didn't really make sense, whereas like pretty obvious that like English wasn't their first language, and obviously Leonardo DiCaprio's language is English. So it's like it's a crazy thing. So you're going to be able to find a certain amount of people willing to go down this path. Okay, so this person says, I'm a lonely 68-year-old widow, and I get daily requests from men I don't know on Facebook who think I'm beautiful and interesting and want to friend me. They all happen to be retired surgeons, pilots, business owners, and other high level professionals. Now, why would these men want me when they could get a younger, prettier girlfriend in the area they live in? Why? Because they are not real. I'm old, but not stupid. This is like the perfect comment, right? This basically explains everything that's going on. Lord. Come on, ladies. Never ever give money to a man. Not ever. Dear Lord. I hope that I do not become gullible in my old age. Yeah. Although sad and tragic, it always amazes me how someone can save month after month for 20 to 30 years and then in an instant hand all of it over to a complete stranger they've never met. And these are probably the same people that use coupons at the local food store. Yeah. The problem is there's a certain amount of like there's a certain percentage of the population are kind of like sheep where they will be willing to pretty much do whatever the leader says. And in this case, the scammer was basically the leader. And it's sad to say, it's just like she fell right in line to what the guy wanted her to do, which is like super sad. But obviously, don't be sending large sums of money to anyone, like ever.